Hello everyone, back tuning into today's video. We're going to have a look at the weather for next week, same days for today's video, and it's going to take us through more or less the first sort of week, 10 days of February. So the weather's on the turn. We've had this record-breaking spell of historic, really warm early summer weather through the last couple of weeks, particularly so in the past week. It's on its way out. It's gone now, that extensive warmth, and temperatures will be getting increasingly cool and will be turning more and more unsettled as well in the next few days. So all change as we reach the end of meteorological winter and move into the beginning of meteorological spring. So I'll bring you up to date with all of the latest developments in a moment. We're going to have a look at Beijing Climate Centre for the next 40 days as well in today's video, so it's going to be quite an interesting watch. Going to start off though by having a look at radar picture because we've got something going on that we haven't had for a very long time. We've got rain moving across the country, particularly the southern half of the country. So it's dry across Scotland and much of Northern Ireland, dry as well. But for England and Wales, we have got these heavy bursts of rain that you can see here. Some quite prolonged bursts as well. And the bright colours are indicating that there is some fairly heavy outbreaks mixed in. Not sure if there's any lightning flashing away. So no lightning flashing away there. But you could hear some rumbles of thunder through the course of this afternoon. There's quite a bit of energy within the atmosphere. And not only rain, but also pretty cool temperatures as well. So it's certainly not going to be breaking any temperature records today. Actually, these temperatures aren't that cold, really. They are sort of kind of like close to, or maybe still a little bit above average. So we're flashing away very many locations at around 12 degrees. See all those yellow circles flashing away. So, I mean, that's a bit above average for the end of February down across the south of England. You would normally expect temperatures, maximum temperatures to be around sort of 9 or 10 down across the far south and southeastern part of the country at the end of February. So we're still a couple of degrees above average, but it certainly is a lot cooler, particularly so up in the north. So some of these areas across northeastern England, for example, Teesside at just 6 degrees, Newcastle at just 5 degrees, Catahall at just 5 degrees. So it's actually cold up there. That is colder than average up in the northeastern part of the country. I think there's quite a bit of mist and fog lingering on up there. So temperatures have dropped by many degrees, but still a bit above average in the south, quite cold up in the north. We're certainly not going to be seeing any more record-breaking warm temperatures for the foreseeable future. That's it now. The record-breaking warm temperatures are a thing of the past for the time being, anyway. I thought I'd bring you up to what's happening in the stratosphere, because, of course, it's been the big storyline of the winter, really, the sudden stratospheric warming that we had at the end of December, around Christmas to New Year. We had this massive warming of the stratosphere over the North Pole. We was expecting to get a tropospheric response in the form of northern blocking. I think we did get a partial tropospheric response in the second half of January. We saw cold, very cold weather sinking down into the mid-latitudes, into both North America and into much of Northern Europe as well. It happened that the blocking set up in a way that meant we only got partially cold, but we did have a fairly chilly last couple of weeks to January. Didn't last all that long. Of course, we know that we had this very warm February, or very mild February, incorporating a very warm final week to 10 days. So I think we did get a partial response anyway to the sudden stratospheric warming, but I thought I'd bring you up to date with where we are with stratospheric temperatures as we come to the end of the winter of 2018-19. Of course, that is questionable. We're just talking about the meteorological end of winter, which runs from the 1st of December to the final day of February. But the weather itself doesn't know those kind of criteria, so you can get wintry weather well into March and even into April, of course, sometimes. So this is where we're standing anyway, with the temperature at 10 HPA over North Pole. This is from the JMA. The grey line here is a trend line for this point of the year, and the black line shows where we've been with stratospheric temperature going right way back into the autumn just there. So of course this is the sudden stratospheric warming here occurring at the end of December. That huge increase in temperature, something like 50, 60 degree temperature rise in a few days at the end of December. Since then we trended down, and that's where we are right now. So we are very cold with our stratospheric temperatures at 10 HPA, way below average. We should be warming those temperatures up now in the stratosphere over the North Pole. The grey line lifting up there shows what should be happening. But we're at this really, really cold level in terms of the temperature at 10 HPA, down around minus 80, which is as cold as it's been at any point through the winter, really, which is highly unusual to be seeing that as you end the winter and move into the beginning of the spring. And this is certainly tied in with what's happened over the past month or so with those cold temperatures in the stratosphere up over North Pole. We strengthened the polar vortex, and that allowed heights to rise through the mid-latitudes, and that allowed us to pump up all of that warmth from southern climes. If we go to 30 HPA, which is a bit lower down in the stratosphere, that's where we are at 30 HPA. So very cold there as well, below average definitely, underneath minus 70, between minus 70 and minus 80. So it's a very cold scene in the stratosphere over North Pole as we end the winter, in complete contrast with what you expect to be happening at the moment, and that follows on from the sudden stratospheric warming that occurred at the end of December, of course. This is how the GFS is forecasting temperatures to develop over the North Pole in the stratosphere at 10 HPA over the next couple of weeks. So these blue colours here, these are the cold temperatures down to minus 80, but we've got in the stratosphere over North Pole at the moment. Let's run through, see what the GFS is forecasting to happen. So we just keep those cold temperatures going, actually, even into the first week of March. We're still around minus 80 with the temperature at 10 HPA over top of the North Pole, which is very, very cold temperature indeed for this late into the year. That is very unusual. As we go through into the more extended range, this is what we see. So in the extended range, we keep those cold blue colours going there over the North Pole. They do start to lift up a little bit, going from kind of like minus 80, minus 76, but it's still very cold temperature over the North Pole. So really quite unusual what's happening there at the moment in terms of the temperature at 10 HPA. We've also seen the zonal winds become very strong indeed. This is from weatheriscool.com. Again, there's lots of various coloured lines here. I haven't got time to go through all of them. If you saw this chart featured in the winter updates, you'll know what each individual line is showing. But the most important line really is the black line, because that's the trend line. So as the temperatures at 10 HPA over North Pole in the stratosphere should be rising, so the zonal winds should be weakening. We should be seeing a weakening of the zonal winds now. That's March, by the way, just there. This is February, just here. That will be going back into January there, and that will be December just there. So you can see the zonal winds did collapse as we had the southern stratospheric warming. This blue line shows how the zonal winds have developed through this winter, how they've performed. Did see a collapse of the zonal winds at 10 HPA in the early part of January. That was in association with the southern stratospheric warming. Since then, the zonal winds have been strengthening, and this is where we are right now with the zonal winds just here. So we are much stronger than average with the zonal winds, which you would expect with the temperature being colder than average at 10 HPA. You would expect the zonal winds and the westerlies to be strengthened, the westerly zonal flow to be strengthened. That's exactly what's going on. It looks like we see a further strengthening. The GFS ensembles are right, which is the green coloured lines here. It looks like we see a further strengthening of the zonal winds in the next sort of couple of weeks. So a really, really strong zonal wind is coming. I mean, it's already pretty strong. It's much stronger than average, but it's going to get even stronger in the next couple of weeks. The pink and blue coloured lines, they are the CFS V2 forecast for the zonal winds And you see from around now onwards, or certainly in around a couple of weeks' time, most of those members of the CFS V2 are forecasting the zonal winds to start to drop. And this is the final drop then. With the zonal winds through to spring and summer. So, of course, you get through to the summer, you have weak zonal winds because you don't have the contrast in temperature between the pole and the tropics to drive the polar vortex and to drive those cold temperatures at 10 HPA. So you expect to get through to the spring into the summer that the zonal winds become weaker. And the CFS V2 are forecasting, CFS V2 members are forecasting this to begin in around a couple of weeks' time. Even the GFS ensembles in around sort of days 10 to 14 are seeing a little bit of a reduction in the strength of the zonal wind. So it looks as though through March we will see temperatures increasing in terms of the temperature at 10 HPA at the same time as the zonal winds begin to weaken, and that's the final weakening of the zonal winds then that carries us through into the spring. Centering temperature is looking like this. So we're currently sitting at 6.9, an anomaly of over 3 degrees above average. That's as high as it's going to get. We're not going to get to 7 degrees now for this February. As high as it'll get, and I think there'll probably be a downwards correction, so we'll probably finish up somewhere around 6.5, I would have thought, to possibly 6.7. I would imagine we'll be somewhere around there. So again, a very warm, very mild February indeed. But all changed for March. These are the 500 millibar height anomaly flowcharts from the Penn State University. We've got the ECMWF here on the top and the GFS, which we'll have in a moment. So on the bottom, 500 millibars. 8,000 species there in the actual high pressure, low pressure have been moved around by the jet stream. Blue extrapolates low pressure, yellow, orange and red to high pressure. Look at this. The ECM is going for very unsettled weather in the next week to 10 days. Low pressure driving in off the Atlantic with a pretty strong jet stream indicated by those black lines as well. So the first week to 10 days of February going to be a lot more unsettled, and the GFS is showing this as well. Again, deep trough of below average heights over and to the north of the UK. Strong jet stream coming across the Atlantic like that, looking really unsettled in the week to 10 day time frame with both the GFS and the ECMWF2. GFS ensembles are looking like this. So the red line here is a 30-year upper air temperature average. Look at Wednesbury in the West Midlands today, another suggested place for this section of the video. So temperatures have come down a lot. You remember yesterday the upper air temperatures were around here, 10 Celsius at 850 HPA. We're down to around here now, around just a little bit above 0 degrees at 850 HPA. This is around where we hover through the next few days into the weekend. I mean, over the weekend into next week, we're going below average, going cooler than average over the weekend, particularly through the course of next week. So temperatures cooling down, have cooled down, will continue to cool down, and by next week we're looking at actually being a little bit cooler than average and more unsettled as well. Look at all these precipitation spikes that we've got coming up, just unsettled really from start to finish. The dates are along the bottom of the chart. It takes us into the middle of March, and we're looking unsettled still then. We're starting unsettled here, so it is a case of showers or longer spells of rain. And up in the north, as the temperatures drop, I suspect it will be cold enough for a little bit of snow actually across certain northern parts of the country next week. Temperature anomalies are falling. So for England and Wales, we're still slightly milder than average from the 28th of February to the 8th of March. But for Scotland and Northern Ireland and the Republic of Ireland, actually, we begin to go a little bit cooler than average. You notice parts of northern and western Scandinavia also started to go a little bit colder than average. I would suspect we're going to see these temperature anomaly charts continuing to trend cooler or colder over the days ahead. And look at that, been a very long time since we've seen this. This is a precipitation anomaly from the 28th of February to the 8th of March, and above average precipitation for much of the UK now, particularly England and Wales, a little bit less so for Scotland and Northern Ireland, but for England and Wales, above average precipitation, and it's been a very, very, very long time indeed since we've seen that. So this is how the GFS is looking for Sunday. Unsettled, low pressure to the north of Scotland will bring showers to them. We've got to watch this area of low pressure down to the southwest. That could bring some very wet weather in across England and Wales through the course of Sunday. Look at that low pressure in the North Sea, 6 o'clock in the morning on Monday. That's brought a soaking to much of England and Wales, and gale force winds associated with that as well. Into Tuesday and then on into Wednesday, low pressure just keeps moving into the country, so more showers, if not longer spells of rain, very unsettled spell next week, in total contrast to what we've had over the past few weeks. Moving up to the end of next week, this is Friday the 8th of March, still looking unsettled. Low pressure is pushing through the country. This carries on up to day 10. Low pressure is well and truly in control of the weather, so showers and longer spells of rain continue up to day 10, which is the 10th of March. Strong winds as well, indicated by the tightly packed isobars, so it continues to be really unsettled. We have a go at building a bit of a ridge there across France on Monday the 11th, but that doesn't come to anything at all, and low pressure is backing off the Atlantic, and that carries us through then to the end of the 6 o'clock run of the GFS, where we continue to look very unsettled, with low pressure continuously bringing bouts of rain and at times perhaps strong winds in from off the Atlantic too. The parallel GFS is in line with this, so again, very unsettled conditions over weekend and into the start of next week. Low pressure, look at that, moving up from the south-southwest through the middle of next week. That'll give us soaking. And then we go into the extended range up towards day 10, looking quite stormy. 960 millibar area of low pressure to the north of Scotland, bringing gales or severe gales across the country at day 10, and then into the extended range it just carries on unsettled, more low pressure, brings strong winds and bouts of rain too. It's going to be a very unsettled first half to March. Above average rainfall is likely through the first half of March, and probably quite cool temperatures as well. ECMWF is in line with this too, so really unsettled conditions over weekend into the start of next week. We keep these areas of low pressure churning away closer to the country through the course of next week, bringing showers or longer spells of rain up to day 10. That's how we're looking, and it looks very unsettled. Sunday the 10th of March, bringing bouts of rain and strong winds in from off the Atlantic as well. So the Atlantic is coming back now, and it looks like it's going to take some stopping, I have to say. It looks like we're in for a bit of the Atlantic onslaught. These are the options that are on the table within the ECM ensembles at day 10 from the Icelandic Met Office. This is for the 10th of March. 240 hours. So all options are pointing towards unsettled conditions. Got 27 members of the ECM ensembles with low pressure more or less over the top of the country. They're very unsettled, and it includes the ECM control run. Then we've got 24, including the operational run, the run we was just looking at, that has low pressure, kind of like a little bit more to the northwest. But I mean, it's just splitting hairs really. They're both options are very unsettled. The Atlantic is back, and it's going to take some stopping, I think. So for the first 10 days of March, watch out. It's going to be very unsettled. Up to 2 weeks away, which takes us to the 15th of March. This is how we're looking. Again, we've got 19 members of the ECM ensembles with low pressure over to the north of the country, bringing in these strong westerly winds. They're very unsettled. 16 have low pressure out to the northwest and try to raise heights a bit to the southeast. So they're trying to turn a bit drier and a bit milder, perhaps, for the middle of March. And then we've got a minority option, 16, or another 16, with low pressure in the middle of the Atlantic, low pressure through central parts of Europe, and a ridge out to our northwest. So they're a bit drier as well, but they're colder. They'll be bringing in wind from a northwesterly direction. So possibly just a few hints of a bit of a change for the middle of March, something a bit drier. But overall, it looks like certainly for the next 10 days, probably the next couple of weeks, it's going to be very unsettled. Finally, the Bayesian Climate Centre. These are the 500 millibar height anomalies broken down into 10-day periods. The first 10-day period will take us from the 1st to the 10th of March. Low pressure, below average heights to the north, above average heights to the south, bringing in a strong westerly wind. So much more unsettled than the first 10 days of March. The Atlantic is back. The Atlantic strikes back in the first 10 days of March, and we keep us going into the next 10 days as well. the 11th through to the 20th of March, with below average heights up to the north and northeast, above average heights in the middle of the Atlantic. So those are unsettled, but those are also quite cold as well, I would have thought, or certainly a lot cooler. Winds are in from the northwest there. So possibly a little bit of wintry potential for northern parts of the country in that 10-day period. Then the next 10 days will take us from the 21st of March to the 30th, with above average heights in the middle of the Atlantic, below average heights still to the east of the country. Winds are coming from a northwesterly direction, so quite cool as well. Perhaps a little bit less unsettled as the trough begins to lift out and slips away to the east. And then all change for the final 10 days. This is taking us from the 31st of March to the 9th of April. We get above average heights building to our north, below average heights sink away to the south. This will be bringing in easterly winds, and will be turning a lot drier as well. So drier, warmer perhaps through the first 10 days of April, with winds turning into the east. Won't be particularly warm for eastern parts of the country, of course, where we're dragging the wind in from off the North Sea. It will be quite chilly there, but otherwise perhaps settling down a little bit through early April and possibly getting a bit warmer. But before that, it looks like March is shaping up to be quite an unsettled and quite cool month, actually, in total contrast to February. Right, that's brought you up to date with all of the latest developments. We'll be back tomorrow with JMA Friday, your month ahead look ahead, and we'll also have a week to 10-day video update as well tomorrow. And I'm sure I'll have Terry Scoll's March forecast as well tomorrow. Right, that's all for now, and thanks for watching.